This is in maybe a tough video for me to make, but I'm going to do my best with it because I think it will help people. I think it will help me, honestly, in the long run. And yeah, I think it'll be therapeutic. And I want to talk about today that within the last year, I got as much confirmation as I could that I am on the autism spectrum. And that usually doesn't happen to somebody really as an adult or in my age group or anything like that. And it baffles me saying this now that I wasn't interested in finding this out sooner. I think it crossed my mind, and I don't want to get too personal here. I am very like protective of my personal life, especially a couple of people in it. So I might dance around some certain specifics. All I'll say is there is somebody that is saying they're close to me is an understatement. They're attached to my hip, and I may or may not have helped conceive this individual that is diagnosed, autism spectrum disorder and a myriad of other things that is a very large part. I mean, it's all of my life, is what I will say. I don't want to say dealing with it, but at this point, the age that this person is at, I've got like 4 to 5 years under my belt, being in this community, understanding what it is, and all these things, and helping this individual as best I can, as excruciatingly hard as it can be sometimes. And if you are on the spectrum or care for somebody that is yourself, I'm preaching to the choir. It can be a lot, but you love the person and you're going to be there no matter what, and you're certainly going to have very weak moments along the way, which I do too. So I don't know why. Long story short, on that reasoning is with this person being so close to me that deals with this. Why wouldn't I have looked into it to myself? I don't know. It just I can't explain how much that baffles me. And the reasoning is because finding out or getting some sort of confirmation that, and again, this is very hard for me to say because I don't want to sound like a victim or like I'm wearing the title of being on the spectrum as a badge or something like that. And I don't know why that's my first emotion. I guess I feel like there are people in life that I suspect do that with not autism, but other things as well, or make excuses and they're just bullshitting. I don't know why that's my first suspicion, but that's why it's so difficult for me to claim it as a title. And I certainly don't have to be doing this. I mean, I certainly don't have to make this video. If it bothers me that much, I don't have to do it. I don't have to call my channel, Autistic Minimalist, but I think it's catchy and draws attention, and I think that it will help people, and I certainly don't like labels or walking around in life with some story hanging around your neck or on a monkey on your back that this is my lot in life. I'm a victim and there's nothing I can do about it. So I'll get that out of the way. I imagine you as a viewer are not looking at me that way, but that's my cross that I bear, I guess. This guilt trip or this idea that I'm kind of exaggerating this for attention, which I'm not. I don't talk to anybody in my normal life about it. I mean, hey, if I'm on the spectrum, I don't really even like hanging out with people. So back to me finding out again. Don't know why it took me so long to do this, but if you also got confirmation of this as an adult, or later than you typically would, because it's usually diagnosed for children, and I think that's something that should get more attention, is that we should look into it for adults. The person that I am speaking of that I care for is, I think was 2 or 3 when the diagnosis happened. I think 3. And when I found out about myself, if this happened to you, maybe you can relate. It was just this unbelievable rush of emotion. I'm pretty sure I actually did tear up, actually, which you're allowed to do if you're an adult male. I don't know if you know that. And it's just this like, God, I don't even know what to compare it to because anything I say is going to be stupid, but it's almost like finding out who your real dad is, or I don't know. I have no concept of that stuff, but just this like, oh my God, everything makes sense. Wow, whatever, that kind of thing. And I just had this rush of emotions, and it's like, this makes so much sense. Like, why in the hell would I have not looked into this sooner? I'll stop badgering myself on that part, but it I just think back of all these things in my life. I mean, I could give you stories upon stories upon stories about my young life, my junior high and high school life, and a lot of my adult life, and me today. And it just makes all the sense in the world. And I used to assume it from the aspect of like, I get very intense with things. I get very, very obsessive when there's a new interest that I have or an old interest I have. Like fitness and nutrition is a large part of my life. I get absolutely obsessed with optimizing that to the point of no return. You know what I mean? I've done it with certain like monetary investments to my absolute ruin, unfortunately, occasionally. I've done it with things at work, all sorts of things, just maniacal obsession, which can be a blessing and a curse. That you can get really good at something because your attention to detail is insane, but then you can get so into the weeds with analysis and want to be a perfectionist that you're actually like hurting yourself, or you just want to drop everything and say, you know what, fuck it, I don't know why I'm doing this anymore. If I can't be this perfect, I'm not even going to do it. So that's kind of the back and forth with that. And that's what I experienced mainly as an adult. As a kid, and I don't want to make this a very long video, but I'll just kind of go quickly chronologically. The first things that I remember being 4, 5, 6 years old, like when I was in preschool, very shy. And I can't say what was going on in my head at the time because I was too young, but I know I was shy. Like I just remember not talking a lot. I see the little portraits of myself at that age that they did back then, because they still do them, but just the way they looked back then. So shy, like just a sad face. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it. And saying this stuff out loud makes me like empathize with that kid so much. Boy, like when you see yourself as a little kid, it really does something, I think, to you. So I remember that, like being in preschool, and then, through elementary school. I mean, I think I got a little bit more open through that. But things really get tough in like junior high and high school. And, it's just not unique to me. I understand that everybody goes through that, whether they're, neurodivergent or not. And junior high was very tough. I mean, especially when the couple friends that I had started going down a bad path and I felt isolated. It was very tough. When things got absolutely crippling for me in terms of, and this I can say because I was, forming into an adult, I know what my thoughts were. High school, 16, 17, 18 years old, particularly my junior year of high school when I was 17. Oh my God, I wanted to disappear. I hated myself. I was fat, in my opinion. And I was overweight and considered obese, and that's part of my fitness obsession now, and I look good now, and I'm happy with that. But I was like 210 pounds at 5'10". So like, you'd probably say chunky, but in my opinion, that's not a good weight. I mean, it isn't healthy. So I was obese. And I hated myself for that. I had a shitty haircut. I had like sideburns because I was getting a beard, but it wasn't growing in yet. And I kept the sideburns and people made fun of me for it. I walked with a hunch. I distinctly remember. I remember a guy coming up and mocking me for how I walked in the hall one time. I haven't said this stuff out loud maybe in I've never said that out loud in my life. I remember distinctly seeing myself in mirror or something and seeing how I looked in school and fucking hating myself. And I wouldn't talk to anybody. I just didn't talk. I've always been very interested in like broadcasting, multimedia. I mean, as you can tell, like that's just the shame. The thing that's a shame is like I've always been very well spoken and been able to like host things, which I've done a lot of. Have editing skills, all this stuff. I love all of that. Recording things, studios, production. I love that. And I just didn't speak back then, which is such, a shame, I feel like, because I feel like I am a unique individual and I have things I can share and would like to talk to people. And I was in a broadcasting class. My high school had this amazing program, absolutely amazing. It was literally better than when I went to college, where they had like a morning TV show for the school. I went to a fairly large high school, which was tough. And I was in that broadcasting realm. Now, I was not on air talent because I hated myself and I wouldn't speak, but I became this like chief editor, which really went with my brain chemistry. You know what I mean? I loved editing. I would edit. I absolutely loved it. Putting stuff together in the back room. I would just be back there editing all day. So I found my niche a little bit. And then when I was a senior in high school, I got, I don't say popular, but there were popular kids in the broadcasting class because they're on TV, on our little closed circuit television and all this stuff. So I'm hanging out with the popular kids all of a sudden now. It was wild. I mean, I still felt completely inappropriate and like I didn't belong. But I overcame that my junior year, the crippling shyness that I had. I remember a time, just real quick, and I don't want this to be super long. I remember a time that our broadcasting like teacher, whatever you would call him, was like discussing me with somebody else. Not saying anything bad about me, but figuring out what I could do on a certain job, not even knowing I was in the room. That's how invisible I was. I was literally like 25 feet from him on a computer because I didn't want to talk to anybody and I was so shy. And he was like, what could, I don't like give my name out, but what could X do for this project? And I'm like, he doesn't even see me. Like I am invisible. And I look back now and I'm like, well, you have yourself to blame for that a little bit. But it was so hard for me to overcome at the time, and I didn't have the resources, or people to tell me that, it doesn't have to be like this, and that sucks, and I see how that can be very hard for younger people, that when you feel like you don't belong, you do in terms of being here on this earth, but you also don't have to belong in somebody's fucking picture of what you should be or the group that you're in. And if you don't like them, you walk away and do what you want to do. That's a beautiful thing about growing up and being an adult. And I know, unfortunately, people still don't realize it as an adult sometimes. And there are tragedies there, but is knowing that it's like, nah, I'm not going to be around these people. I don't like these people. I don't like what they're doing. So fuck it. I'm going to go do my own thing. And that's a struggle I've had my entire adult life. I've had ex-girlfriends and stuff like that where it's like, oh, my friends are coming over. And I'm thinking, I hate your fucking friends. And really, we don't belong together anyway. And we're going to break up eventually. But all these moments where I remember one particular girlfriend would just, I've had a couple great girlfriends too, but judged me for all this shit. Why do you log into work so early? And, like don't you work at 8? Why are you logging in now? And it's like, because I want to get shit done. I want to get stuff done at the beginning of my day. And I enjoy being a good employee. And it's what I want to do. You know what I mean? Or like my friends don't like you. Like you're not, why do you go off on your own? It's like, well, I don't like your friends. And I would never choose to hang out with these people. I'm like, what am I even doing? You know what I mean? And it isn't even just that. It's not even not being morally aligned with people. It's also like I don't enjoy large groups. Like it's tough for me to do that. And obviously the girlfriend I'm speaking of, like we didn't belong together and I told her to kick rocks eventually. But even today, her voice comes into my mind today when I'm antisocial or something, like her judgments of me, which sucks. I'm like, I don't share any moral value with this person. I got them out of my life. I don't want to be around them. And their voice still comes into my head. Like, I don't know what that is about. I'm kind of rambling here with this stuff, but yeah, it's okay not to want to be in these large groups. And what I love about whatever you want to call it, a diagnosis or discovery, whatever, of being on the spectrum is being nicer to yourself. Like, it's okay to have an initial reaction, like, oh, God, I don't want to go to this thing. I don't want to go to this party, this, that, or the other thing. What actually hurts is then the downward spiral judgment of yourself. Well, you haven't seen these people in a while. What, you're a prick. Why aren't you celebrating a guy's 39th birthday, which is stupid to even celebrate, in my opinion? You know, why you're antisocial. This would be good for you. You work so hard. You do all these things. And that is the one thing. It's not a cure-all, but like, knowing this information about myself now, I'm not as hard on myself. I'm still very hard on myself, but there are moments where it's like, okay, I'm not trying to make an excuse for myself, but you have this thing that the majority of people don't have, and it's okay if you don't want to do X, Y, or Z because of it. I'm not trying to get all these accommodations at work. I'm not trying to skip meetings because I don't like masking or whatever. I'm not going to do that. But if there's some dumbass group gathering where I don't like most of the people at, and maybe I'll be judging myself too much, I'm like, that's just not the environment that I want to be in, you know? And sometimes if you have the energy to get through something like that, I want to be around people. Like, I want to connect with people and have friends and not be some, introverted, psychotic weirdo. You know what I mean? And I think those are the things that can be rough about this. But you need to be nicer to yourself if there's just certain environments that you don't want to be in. So I could go on and on about this. I'm definitely going to make more videos about this, obviously. But I think that it's very valuable to share this for other people. I hope that it is for you if you've stuck around this long. I feel good talking about it. I especially didn't think I would get nearly emotional thinking of myself as a younger person. But yeah, so I would love to hear from you. If you are on the spectrum or have ever thought that you were, or share some of my experiences. Or I know from watching other autistic people and channels that sometimes there are very relatable things. So if any of this resonated with you, I would love to know. So comment below, and I'll talk to you next time.